Markets are much calmer now that a plan is coming out of Europe and China that could help bail out the Eurozone. So will investors focus more on what's happening here in the U.S.?
Peter Schiff is the CEO of Euro Pacific Capital. He's joining us now live from New Orleans. And Peter, what if we started to look at what's happening here in the U.S.? Fewer people are asking if we'd see a double-dip recession. Certainly after yesterday's bullish move in the market, people were feeling better. Are you?
Well, I might be, but the country isn't. I think, the numbers that you just mentioned, the fact that the savings rate is now down to the lowest level since December of 2007, that shows where all this phony growth is coming from. It's spending more money that we don't have. The GDP numbers that we got this week, the reason there was a decent number or 2.5 was because consumers spent more. But now you know where they got the money. They borrowed it. And the other problem is some of the money they're spending is because they're not making their mortgage payments. And I think some of the spending is coming from the fact that people have so much credit card debt, they figure, what the hell, they're not going to pay it anyway, so they might as well buy more stuff. And I think another reason that they're spending more is because prices are going up. So, I don't think this is good news.
But, Peter, you got to face the reality that most people are making their payments on time, and most people are, in fact, dealing with their credit cards in a good way, not in a bad way. So isn't it conceivable that despite all the bad news, and I don't deny what you say, there's a lot of bad news out there, but there's still a lot of good news. Can't you recognize any of it?
No, I don't see any good news. The government today, the GDP numbers that came out, they're claiming now that after 15 quarters, we finally recouped what we lost during the Great Recession, that we fully recovered. But how can that be? You have millions and millions of people that are still unemployed. Do you really believe that American workers are that much more productive, that we can have the same level of economic output we had in December of 2007 with millions of fewer workers? I don't think so. I just think it's all an illusion. I think it's created by government. I think inflation is a lot bigger than the government admits, so the GDP is actually a lot lower. And if you actually look at the other statistics, during the Great Recession, according to the government, household income dropped by 2.5% during that period of time. But since the recovery began, household income has dropped by 7.5% adjusted for inflation.
Okay.
How can Americans be doing worse in the recovery than in the recession?
Well, as David said, there is bad news out there, certainly. But we should let people know that as gloomy as you often sound, you've found many ways to make money. What are you investing in, Peter?
Well, I'm investing in gold and silver.
No, but come on. No. I mean, you have these incredible plays of things like the Chinese toll companies that manage to make a lot of money. That's why you're called Euro Pacific. How much Euro? How much Pacific?
Yeah, well, not that many euros these days, although the euro is going up, as I've been forecasting. But a lot of people aren't talking about the fact that today the U.S. dollar hit another all-time record low against the Japanese yen. So the dollar is weak, and it would be a lot weaker if the Japanese weren't foolishly intervening, which is what a lot of other countries are doing. But yes, I think there is opportunity around the world. Think about all the products that we're buying. Somebody had to make them. So there is actually economic growth going on in other countries, and I think it's going to improve when those other countries stop lending us money and start using that money for themselves. And so there is opportunities, I think, if people buy money, invest in other stock markets. In fact, this huge rally we've had in the stock markets in the last month, it's much bigger outside the United States than in the United States, especially when you factor in the foreign exchange.
Okay, Peter, I want to shift gears here for a second because there's a viral video out that I'm sure you've seen. You probably had something to do with putting it out, but it's getting a lot of hits. It's you actually. You've never been a shy guy. You've never been reticent about confronting somebody who you disagree with. You did that with the Occupy Wall Street crowd, one person in particular. Let's take a look at that and get your reaction.
I'm employing 150 people. How many people do you employ?
I'm in the mortgage business. I wish I employed 150 people.
Well, let's stop. Well, go do it.
The problem is
I'm doing it. I'm doing my share. Why aren't you doing yours?
I'm doing my share. Sticking up for the entrepreneur. I love it. How did you get out of there alive, Peter?
Well, they were pretty civil. I mean, there were a lot of people that were arguing with me, but there was no violence, I think a couple of people, reached out and touched me, but not in a threatening kind of way. But I had a good time. I was there for about 3 hours, maybe a little bit more.
Good
so
for you.
A lot of the conversation is on the cutting room floor right now. But I didn't produce the videos. There are a lot of people around there taking videos. But I do believe that we're going to get a lot more footage up there, so you can see all of these exchanges in their entirety, because they are pretty lively.
But Peter, is that why you didn't make it to our high school reunion last weekend that I was at? Peter and I went to the same high school. School, Beverly Hills High School.
Don't give away your age.
I didn't. Did I say 30th? Oops.
Oh, no, but they can see how old I look. You just now the cat's out of the bag.
I
You
was
look
a
like my
child
daughter.
genius, so I was a lot younger than you, right? Peter,
well,
they missed you there. All right. Well,
Yeah, well, but the reason is because I'm going back to California again. I'm going to be there. I'm speaking at UCLA November 8th. I'm actually doing an economic debate. Maybe you guys could cover it. It should be pretty lively. And I'm speaking in
We're
in
going to
Orange
send out
County.
the crews right away.
And I'm
Liz will
down
go
here
out
in
your
New
private
Orleans,
jet.
right now. So I would have liked to have come out there, Liz. Hopefully you said hello to everybody.
I told
for me.
everybody how well you're doing investing in Zimbabwe Platinum. Peter, thank you.
Hey, he's making
That
money.
was an old call. I'm glad you remember that one.
Good for you, Peter. Thanks a lot.